Yeah. We're just going to wait for one more to join us online, and then we'll get going. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this special board meeting to order at 5:02. Trustee Oatway Maclay, are you able to do the land acknowledgement for us, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see me too?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Sturgeon Public Schools respectfully acknowledges that we teach, learn, and grow together on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We honor and respect the history, languages, ceremonies, and cultures of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have called this land home for countless generations. We recognize the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Inuit for their care, love, and stewardship of this place. We are grateful for those who share their knowledge. We are grateful for those who share their knowledge with us and help to foster a respectful relationship with all of our relatives on this land. We are committed to understanding the harms done in the name of education and continue to learn to honor the true spirit of Treaty 6 as a promise of friendship, collaboration, and peaceful alliance.
Thank you. Okay. Item 3, Sturgeon Public Schools Draft 3-Year Education Plan 2024 to 2027. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair Gibbons. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I'm going to turn it over to the deputy, and he is going to display this and walk through the ed plan.
Thank you, John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. We are requesting administration for approval through motion of the draft education plan that I will be presenting here in a moment. Considering the motion, it does, not the motion, the memo, it does remind the board that administration has shared a draft copy earlier at May 9th, and that there was feedback opportunity provided to the trustees. There's also a reminder in the memo here of a bit of the process that the 3-year education plan is required to be reviewed and then provided to Alberta Education and posted on our website by May 31st. And then there's a summary in the motion of the highlight of our 3 goals: empowered student and staff learning, healthy, safe school communities, responsible leadership, and opportunity. If, as was shared, I may put the plan into the public screen here, then I'll walk through the plan and highlight some of the work that went into it, some of the feedback from our stakeholders, and how it arrived in front of us. It's reasonable. Sorry for the tech delay. I want to go in a bit. I don't know why it's. Okay, I'd like to walk through. I won't be reading the plan to the trustees. I think you've all had an opportunity to see it, and I appreciate that. But I wouldn't mind just kind of commenting on the structure and how we arrived at the plan. So broadly, thank you so much for providing commentary and a message from the board. It's critical that there and throughout the plan, the trustees hear and see their voice. Our foundational statements, we remain committed to the division's mission, vision, and values. And it is important that this plan carries that mission and vision and values forward in all of our schools and supports it. We celebrate in a plan in a public document like this, a little bit of our profile, who we are in Sturgeon, and some of the programs, certainly the ones that we're very proud of to have in our schools, and some of the direct supports that we provide students and families in our schools. So I wouldn't mind zooming in a bit. Apologies that it's not working the way. Usually this is not challenging. There we go for me. And I apologize. I was trying to do that earlier because I think if anyone's trying to follow along, you can read a bit better. My apologies. So one of the key parts in looking at a plan of this scope, it is refreshed annually with articulated strategies that can run out for 3 years at a time. That's why we bring forward a 3-year plan every year. And this plan is built very critically on stakeholder voice. You'll see there are required elements from the province, and then there are additional elements that we in Sturgeon go to our stakeholders, and that is students and parents, yourselves, administration, staff. We go to all the people that we are working together in community, and that's going to come out in our second goal quite a bit. So these are the measures that are fully articulated in the November annual education results report. Just to remind the board and anyone listening online that this plan is first built on those full results. In addition, we do consider the early results from feedback. We had the parent engagements in our communities this year, and we also had parent survey and staff survey this year, and we have done some early analysis. That's also considered in this plan. It's important to show what we will be doing next year for engagement. We are continuing all the provincial, that's the AEA, the Annual Education Assurance Survey, and all of the statistical analysis results, PATs, diplomas. And then you can also see some of the different ways that we will formally be talking through survey, in person, results analysis, and conversation that will feed feedback on this plan. So we'll know if this plan is reaching our goals. The difference for anyone who's seeing this plan after seeing last year's plan is the structure. And that is a direct result of feedback from our administrators and our school communities desiring a plan that had a more focused, smaller set of goals. Previous plans, we did our strategies and our outcomes aligned with the 5 domains. And I'll remind the trustees that we are required, all of those assurance measures are still aligned to the 5 assurance domains. We still track all of the student growth and achievement, the teaching and learning, the learning supports, the governance, and the local and societal context. They're still in the plan, but we're not required to design, to articulate the document so in those 5 domains. And so based on the feedback of saying articulated goals, a smaller set of goals are achievable and clearer in conversation, this plan is structured around 3 goals. And these 3 goals are empowered student and staff learning, healthy, safe school communities, and responsible leadership and opportunities. Administration believes when we reach these goals, we'll have student success, division wellness, and we'll be meeting our mission, vision, and values. I will take a moment to highlight the outcomes in the 3 goals. Just to remind, outcomes are what we are striving for. When we have these outcomes, we have empowered learning. When we have these outcomes, we have healthy and so on. So I'll just say, in empowered learning, we will have students and educators that know their purpose, think critically and collaboratively, and cultivate identities as lifelong learners. Students will be actively participating in engaging learning environments focused on success and real-world connections. Learning experiences will meet student current level of achievement and focus on growth through effective assessment. Educators understand foundational Indigenous knowledge and design learning experience and contribute to truth and reconciliation. When we see these 4 things in our schools, we will know we have what we are saying, what empowered learning looks like in our schools. For healthy school communities, Staff, students, and families collaborate to create a school community that is equitable, safe, caring, and respectful. Staff, students, and families demonstrate citizenship and honor diverse learning needs. School communities are committed to truth and reconciliation with connections to local Indigenous leaders and communities. Responsible leadership and opportunity. Staff and students actively participate and lead school and community projects. Staff and students demonstrate responsiveness and empathy towards community needs, building programming connected to the community. The board is actively engaged in community events and initiatives, building trust and relationships between the division, its communities, and provincial partners. Pause for a moment. When I get down to page 18, there is a typo that we'll need to address through the motion with an amendment. This objective is read here, outcome, is how we want to see the plan, that the board is actively engaged all the way through to and provincial partners. The and provincial partners is missing on page 18. My apology. Resources are allocated and managed in the interest of ensuring student success. As we look into each goal, and I'm not going to read the plan, but I want to at least understand the structure for the trustees here so the board understands. The highlighted statistics are areas that we will improve. These are goal areas. These are growth statistics. In the ARR, we celebrate our success and we notice the areas that we need to improve. In this plan, the highlights are areas that we will be improving. I just want to clarify that. These are the metrics that we're going to move. And based on some feedback from trustees, we have very clearly articulated provincial measures are ones that every school in anywhere in Alberta, whether they're addressing these ones or not, but they are measured in these measures. And local are ones that we choose. We choose the survey, we choose the engagement, we choose those kinds of things. Again, these are growth. We're going to improve these. And how we're going to improve them is the outcomes that I've already reviewed with the trustees here. Those are the outcomes. We're going to meet those. How are we going to meet those outcomes? That's how you know we have empowered learning. Oh, actually, I want to highlight, one more thing. We talk a lot about learning engagement. You'll see it here in the measures, engaged learning, and we want that. But we very deliberately chose empowered learning to capture engaged learning. But if you look at the first outcome, when it talks about knowing your purpose, thinking critically, and creating identities of lifelong learning, we thought that included engaged. We have engaged and active participating. Engaged is absolutely in this goal, but we felt that when you understand why, like not just that it's fun and interesting, but that you understand the why and you think of yourself as a learner, that's why that word was chosen, empower. There are more highlighted growth here. We've included them to be a robust plan. Again, there's more results, but these are results that we seek to improve. Oh, and in this one, at the very top, we did highlight just so the trustees know the numbers of parents, students, and teachers that were involved in the provincial measures last year. Same for local measures last year. And then we also have those numbers for the local measures this year. The provincial measures are not in this one plan. This paragraph is not repeated in every one of the goals, but the statistics actually remain the same. This is the generalized statistics for all the surveys. To understand how we're going to reach the outcomes, we're mandated actually by the province to have what are outcomes so that they know what we're defining. How we're going to reach them is this collection of strategies. Some of these strategies are new. Many are edited from previous. This is where you start to see that 3-year continuation where it's fresh in the new year, but some of these strategies are still bearing fruit in our schools and we're continuing. How we'll know we got there? Well, I mentioned the local engagement survey measures at the beginning of our conversation where I talked about the in-person and the survey. This is very detailed. We will evaluate the effectiveness of the strategies in reaching those outcomes by reviewing these measures. I'll remind those online and for the trustees, that just the lead and lag. Lag are all the measures that come after we've done everything. It's after. That's the lag part. Lead are the things that we're going to be doing throughout the year to ensure that we understand we're on track or if we need some corrections. That's the lead versus the lag. Lag is when it's all done and then we check how we do. Implementation is a conversation from administration with yourselves on how this will begin, how we will be implementing at a high level next year, those strategies. Strategies are what we will do, how we do them. It looks like this. That's these paragraphs. It's the second goal, healthy school communities. Again, measures we will be improving. These are growth measures. You can see the provincial and the local. And when we consider the outcomes, just thinking again, healthy school communities, it's very intentional that the language includes families, parents, partners in our education. We've continued to be learning. It's always been true, but we really see that in order to have what we would call a healthy school community, we need to ensure our parents are part of things, that we're hearing our parents, but they're also actively participating and learning with their child at home, but also engaged in communication with teachers and administration. If we're going to be a healthy school community, which is needed to support the needs of all students, then we need to make sure it's everyone in the community. That's why it's a healthy school community. More growth measure statistics that we will be focusing on with this goal. They're all aligned to that goal. When we talk about some wellness measures for students, safe, caring, respectful environments, access to supports and services, that in a healthy school community, you'll have great access to supports and services. You'll express this school is welcoming, safe, and caring. Strategies our schools will be engaged in, and how we will know during the year, lead, lag at the end of the year. The final goal, before we get to the final goal, highlighted in our plan, as we highlighted our profile and a bit of who we are in the community, we're highlighting some of the fantastic connections that our schools, our staff, and the community leaders around us. We're really growing our relationships with Indigenous leaders around us. Certainly a call out to Alexander First Nation and their willingness to have hosted us in culture camps and other experiences that our students are a part of, and are reciprocal now in terms of multiple meetings and talking about learning together. Then the final goal, the third goal, and in this one, what I would highlight to the group is it started as a governance, and there is governance in here. There is leadership in here. You'll see the part of well-managed schools. You'll see the part of the commitment that we're suggesting the board can make through this plan to engaging its communities. But when we were looking at this, we felt it should involve, as you see some of the high words that just jumped out to me, like volunteering in schools, or I've been a leader in my school in some way. And we realized that being a responsible leader, again, is everyone. Students should have opportunities in every grade level to lead within their class, and then lead within their school, and maybe lead across schools. And so this goal also captures that element. So there is governance and responsibility in here from leadership from this table, but it includes that young people, our students in our schools, would be provided opportunities to lead within their schools. In a similar pattern, here's more of the statistics we're looking at. Involvement in school, and a lot of the surveys, a lot of local survey data in here, as this one connects to a lot of local initiatives. How we're going to do it, and well, the strategies we're going to do, how we're going to do those strategies, and then the final one, we also celebrate the many partnerships that we are very welcome to have, that we'll continue to reinforce. As these partnerships connect us to the community, connect us to opportunities, support our students, support our schools, and we wanted to celebrate them in this document as well. Very end is to just show how, as I mentioned, this plan supports the 5 assurance domain. It is also aligned, the little provincial graphic is the goals of the Alberta Education Ministerial Plan, Business Plan. I was suddenly looking for the word there. It's right there, Alberta Education Business Plan. And then how our three main goals support where we would see that they would support the others. Also, if this plan were to be supported by the board and carried forward, and the other part of these meetings get supported, those links will show the capital plans and the budgetary plans as is required by Alberta Education. Sorry, I talked a lot, but it's a big document and I'm so proud of the team. I'm so thankful for all of the feedback that we've received from this table, from our administrators, and from all of the different stakeholder groups that you saw went into this plan. So thank you.
Thank you.
Prepared to take questions.
Can I get someone to put forward the motion? Trustee Murray Elliott.
Trish Murray Elliott, Ward 4. I move that we accept the education plan as presented with the amendment on page 18 of adding to the second last bullet point and provincial partners.
Did you want to speak to the motion or have any questions?
I just want to say thank you to Jonathan and his team and for doing a great job as always. And it's a great document.
Trustee Buga.
Stacy Buga, Ward 5. Yeah, I know that in the past, the format has been very much aligned to those 5 pillars, the accountability pillar, or assurance measures, I believe they are called now. I much prefer this format because of there's so much overlap in what we do with those assurance measures that it was hard for, this one reads almost like we can go back and we can very easily say, did we achieve this? Yes or no. As a board, I think that's really important for accountability to have a really clear yes or no. Did we do it? Did we not? And I found that with the assurance measures, the previous format, I found it was a bit siloed on, it was hard to determine what hit those measures, whereas this is, to me, is quite clear. And I think it's a fantastic plan that focuses on improvements. We all like to have a shiny brochure that just says how great we are, but that's not the purpose of the plan. So I really appreciate the way that this is laid out and look forward to, reviewing it to make sure that we have checked all the boxes and move forward with, in the future with the next one. I think will be a really smooth process. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands, I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the draft Sturgeon Public School Division 3-year education plan for 2024 to 2027 with the noted amendments on page 18. That was presented today, the May 28th, 2024 special board meeting. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, number 4, the 2024-2025 draft budget. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair Gibbons. Shauna Warren, Superintendent, and we'll turn it over to the Associate Superintendent of Corporate Services, Sean Nicholson.
Thank you, Superintendent. Is it possible to bring up the attachment? As our deputy is doing that, I'll kind of start and I'll just excuse myself. I came down with something the other day, so if I cough or need a drink, just. Okay, so on March 28th, the Government of Alberta announced Budget 2024-2025. Although the division projected an increase in enrollment, the jurisdiction operating funding from the government decreased by $500,000. This was due to mainly a reduction in the stabilization grant, which was previously $5.7 million, being reduced by $1.5 million to $4.2 million. Just as a reminder, the stabilization grant was, which replaced the bridge funding grant in 2023-2024, was implemented to subsidize an otherwise cut in the grant allocations. We have been notified with the 24-25 budget that this will be continued to reduce by 25%, $1.4 million, beginning in the next school year all the way until 27-28. The $1.5 million decrease from the stabilization grant was offset by various other grants. Grant increases such as transportation, nutrition, socioeconomic, and so forth. This, combined with reserve levels being reduced, has led to a decrease in resources available for the division. Over the last 2 years, Sturgeon Public School Division has been able to use resources to provide additional supports to schools through great initiatives that focused on mental health and wellness, learning coaches, and counseling supports. The division celebrates the fact that over the last 2 years, we have been able to provide these additional supports to our students. To do this, the board has run a deficit of 2.5 million and 4.1 million respectively over the last 2 years. Overall budget 2024-2025 is based on a projected revenue of $80 million with a $1.2 million deficit. The budget presented today sets forth a strong foundation to ensure the division maintains its fiduciary duty to all stakeholders. It sets a plan that not only meets the needs of the upcoming school year, but a plan that is focused on upkeep and replacement of our schools in future years. The board has met throughout April and May to review preliminary and draft budgets. More specifically, on April 24th, the board approved the budget assumptions, which includes high-level allocation principles and priorities for the budget, and helps set the foundation for the budget presentation today. Of the attached document, revenues and expenses are highlighted on page 3 and 4 of the budget document, which is the schedule of operations and program of operations. Yeah. Yeah. Just scroll to page 3, John, please, and thank you. Down. Yep, that would be perfect. In terms of revenues, the majority of the budget is based on projected enrollment numbers, and the division expecting a modest increase of less than 1%. As a reminder, we are funded on the weighted moving average, so any increase in student enrollment is only, we only receive 50% of the funding in the current year. The division also expect to see prime rate decrease, which will also reduce investment income. Other revenues have been estimated based on a combination of factors that include historical data, projected estimates, and potentially other agreements the division has in place. Overall revenues are planned to decrease by $500,000. Moving over to expenses. Expenses have been reduced by 3.5 million from previously 84.3 million to 80.8 million as a result of a decrease in revenues and operational reserve usage. In addition to this, the division is seeing increased costs due to benefit costs continuing to rise, general inflationary increases, and the standard cost of a teacher increasing from $107,820 to $111,067, a 3% increase. An ongoing concern for our future expenses is the lack of increase in funding to match inflation, as well as the classroom complexity and rising mental health and wellness challenges that will continue to escalate. On page 6 and 8, we highlight our reserve information and usage. Yep, perfect. Operating reserves have decreased over the last 3 years from 12.2 million in 21-22 to 7 million in 22-23 and a projected 3.4 million at 23-24. Is projected at the end of 24-25 that there'll be 2.6 million in operating reserves. Reserves have been planned to be below our required cap of 3.77% for the 23-24 year and below the 6% cap for the 24-25 year. The division plans to set aside funds consistent with amortization to plan for maintaining our buildings in the future and asset replacement to ensure we have safe and caring environments for our students and staff. Completion of the budget takes expertise from all levels of the organization, and I want to thank all those who contributed to the completion of budget 24-25. Thank you to the senior team, principals, school leaders, central office experts, and of course our trustees for supporting in the completion of the budget. I'll open it up to any questions that anyone might have.
Um, can I get someone to put forward the motion of the budget, please? Trustee Buga,
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 budget as presented at the May 28th, 2024 special board meeting.
would you like to speak to the motion or have a question?
As was referred to, we have looked at this multiple times as a group and picked apart a lot of pieces, including our First Nations, Métis and Inuit funding, our Jordan's Principle. We've looked at all sorts of different grants and where they come from and when they come. And so I just want to reiterate for everybody who may be online and for the group that the education plan that we just approved, I believe that we are trusting that this budget is focused in those same directions and that we are doing our best to monitor and maintain this high level of standards and move to improve our division as our education plan has laid out, and that our resources are being used in that direction. So I appreciate that, and I feel like we've had a lot of conversations to make sure that what happens going forward is in alignment with the goals of the board. Thank you.
Trustee Pequin,
Sean, on page 6 of 10, the investment in tangible capital assets. I get asked this one quite often because it says it's a $6.7 million kind of reserve. Could you go into more detail about that and explain how it's not actually cash?
Yes, so on page 6, which is our basically our operating reserves summary. When looking at this, we kind of want to refer more to column 4, which talks about accumulated surplus from operations. That's more so kind of the dollars we have. The investment in tangible capital asset is more of an accounting kind of jargon to outline kind of what we have in board supported assets. So whether that's equipment or buildings, those kinds of things, that's kind of the equity of that dollar value there.
Trustee Briggs,
I actually have a couple of questions. I've been looking at other boards and it seems that I don't have page 11 and we don't have page 11. So it's a school's system admin expense limit percentage. And I was just wondering what our percentage is in Sturgeon.
I will pull it up, but I'm pretty sure it's 3.77%, as I kind of just denoted in my verbiage there. But if you give me 1 second, I will just confirm that. At 3.72%. Last year was 3.77.
So we're at 3.7. Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Is that last year it was what?
3.77.
We seem to be a little high on that. Edmonton Public is at 3.2, St. Albert's at 3.2, G Sacred's at 3.54, and Pembina Hills is at 3.74. So can you explain what is in system admin expense limit?
So that's the limit that is based our system and funding on. So it historically was based on your student count and your size. So larger boards usually had a smaller percentage, but that is dictated us by the government. It's meaning our operating reserve used to be tied to this limit, and it's no longer it will be for the end of this year, but for the future year, the 24-25 budget year, it won't be because it's changed to the 6%. But our operating reserves used to be tied to this percentage. of expenses.
Trustee Murray Elliott.
Is there a reason we don't have page 11?
Nope, it's some boards include it, some boards don't. It is just there for information as they added in the past. I can include it if the trustees would like that.
Yeah, sure. I think as I've commented in the past that during this process, to me, budgets are all about numbers and with numbers, I like to see charts and tables and comparisons and data. And we haven't seen a lot of that in this process. And it just, to me, all these things just make it seem more transparent. So hopefully in the future, we will have a little bit more in numbers for our budget.
Trustee Briggs.
I know this question was brought up at our last meeting. Under non-certificated. I know this question was brought up at our last meeting under non-certificated staff. EAs only went down by 2. And I was wondering if we had an answer to that and what exactly is under other.
What page are you referring to?
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a discussion about this, but comparing to last year during this time, we didn't include the Jordan's principles through discussions with HR in that number. And then what is under other non-certificated staff is the other question. Yep. So just on to the right of that, you'll see that it says personnel and system admin and external services. So that would be anybody coded to system admin as well as anyone under external services. So it would be people on secondment as well too.
Trustee Pequin.
I don't know, want to make a comment to thank everybody for all their hard work on this budget. It's been a tough year. It's gonna continue moving forward to get tougher with losing that stabilization grant. I appreciate how many times we've gone through it, the explanations, the willingness to answer questions, and the openness with the trustees and in working through this. And, you know, I just want to acknowledge it's hard. This is not an easy budget to pass, but these are the cards we laid. And I feel grateful that in our previous year's budgets, we have put the resources into building our capacity and our teachers and putting into the mental health and wellness and to help with the learning loss. So like I said, I just want to acknowledge how tough it is and the hard work that everybody has put into this. And yeah, it's not an easy budget to pass.
Thank you, Trustee Pequin. Excellent.
Okay, seeing no further hands, I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 budget as presented at the May 28th, 2024 special board meeting. All in favor? You got that, Michelle? And all opposed? Okay. Sorry. Trustee Oatman McClay, your hand was, sorry, I missed it.
My hand was in favor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion carried. 5, transportation fees and allowances, Superintendent Warren.
Chair, Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So this is around our transportation fees and allowances, which the board has discussed. I will turn it over to the Associate Superintendent of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Superintendent. The fees have presented with no change as opposed to for the 24-25 year compared to the 23-24 year. Just based on budget estimates, we believe we can still maintain the current fee levels and operate within our allocations and the funding our revenues generated from the fees.
Can I have someone put forward the motion? Trustee Buga,
Stacy Buga, Ward 5. I move that the Board of Trustees approve transportation and fees and allowances as presented at the May 28th, 2024 special board meeting.
would you like to speak to the motion or comment?
I'm just happy that it's not going up. We're having a tough budget, and it's nice to not be nickel and diming our parents further. I appreciate that we are able to maintain these fees as they happen.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak to the motion? Is there anybody that would like to speak against the motion? I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve transportation and fees and allowances as presented at the May 28th, 2024 special board meeting. All in favor? Unanimous? It is 5:43 and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for all of you who are online joining us. Have a lovely evening.